Welcome to another episode of Hospitality Insider on Koni TV. I'm Koni Kim, and today's featured guest is Debra Robinson, Vice President of ADM Associates in Atlanta, one of the leading purchasing company for the hospitality industry. Hi, Debra.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, Koni. How are you?
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And
you.
please share with audiences what ADM Associates do in general.
Okay. ADM is a contract purchasing firm located in Atlanta, and we think of ourselves as implementers of designers' visions. So we see ourselves as interior contractors, not just procurement agents.
That's wonderful. So, we've been in business for long. I remember first
Yes.
time I called on you.
A long time ago.
Yeah, so how long have you been in business?
Since 1975, we've been in business.
Wow.
Continually in that location.
Yeah, same location.
Yes, in Atlanta. We've had work all over the world, but we've always been in that location.
Yes, I know that you've been doing a fabulous project, and Allison is the CEO of the company.
Right, Allison Mehta started the firm. She actually used to work for John Portman originally, and then she ventured out and started ADM Associates in 1975 and really launched a lot of the purchasing firms that are located in Atlanta now.
So, Debra, what caused you to get into purchasing?
Actually, a friend of mine worked at ADM Associates, and I was looking to make a career change and started there, and I just found it fascinating from the very start. So I really started at the bottom and worked my way up. And Allison and I were a great fit as business partners together, so I just found it fascinating. Never the same day, never dull. It's always an interesting business.
So share with us, some design companies do you work with, and you said their vision and to make it in reality is your job?
Right, it is. It really is. We feel like it's important to translate what they have dreamed. They dream these wonderful things. We have to translate that into reality and still stay in the owner's budget.
Right.
So it's a very fine line you walk, but a collaborative effort that we do together. So we work with designers all over the world, and just are fortunate to work with so many talented people.
Right, so however, the owners are the one who hired you, right?
Right. We are usually hired by a developer or the owner of the property, and oftentimes we're recommended by an interior designer or frequently for developers that we've worked for before. But our real obligation is to the owner because that's who pays our fee, so we have an obligation to them. Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what are the fabulous projects you worked on?
Oh, we've worked on some lovely projects over the years. We did a beautiful project in Paris. This was many years back, but it was an excellent project, and it had multi-levels. It had one design firm for the public areas and another for the guest rooms, so that made it quite challenging on our side. We've done projects in Hong Kong, we've done projects in the Bahamas, in Puerto Rico, just in many places, so they've all been lovely. And we like to work on boutique properties that are unique, one of a kind, not always a branded property, and so those can be a little bit more challenging. So
what do you think is biggest challenge?
Gosh, the biggest challenge today, I think, is schedule. That's the real challenge in our industry. It seems that things have picked up pace to such a degree, and to do the job right does still take time.
Right.
And so when we are working with people, if they can hire us early in the game instead of waiting late, it translates into a better project for them.
Right, so the meeting the deadline at the beginning, how do you schedule that and how you can meet the expectation of the owners?
The hardest part is getting them to recognize they need to hire purchasing sooner.
Right.
Oftentimes they've already got the designer on board and they're starting that process and they wait late to hire purchasing, and then they're already kind of behind the gun and we're having to play catch up. So whenever possible, we try to encourage them to just start sooner. In our case, we're fee-based, so it doesn't change our fee if we start sooner. and can deliver a better project for you in the end. So it's just trying to get that, I think, to educate clients about how things work and what it really takes. That's really, I think, a key part of our job is to educate clients so they understand what they need to do, and they'll get a better result.
Yeah, that's right. So, Deborah, if I'm a owner and a developer, I'm looking for a purchasing company. So what is ADM offers that is different than any other purchasing company that I might think about?
I think what we have, and you'll hear this from other probably purchasing firms, but we're hands-on in the sense that we've never tried to be an empire builder. There are very large firms. We've always retained kind of the same size, and we do that purposefully. That's been a choice that we made because we feel like we can better service the client and make the project a better project. We'll turn work down, even if it's a project you really want, if we don't feel like we can staff it properly. So to me, that's what we bring to the table. So we may not be the right fit for every client, but we're a good fit for those clients that recognize they really want somebody that's going to be with them from start to finish. And I think that's what sets us apart.
So what size kind of a hotel does it qualifies in there? Is it very luxury properties?
We tend to do mostly unique luxury properties, things that are one of a kind, that require a lot of special sourcing, not just cookie cutter. And that's not to say that we don't have clients we work with who do what we would call a more mid-range property, and we're certainly glad to do those, and we are happy to have that work as well. But I think our real skill set is bringing some of those specialized sources. We love to hunt for interesting people. We've been known to go to a flea market and find a vendor that's making something, and we're thinking, this is a great vendor, we're going to bring them back.
Yeah, hold that thought. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what is the process that she have the suppliers to work with her, and as well as how she can add value to the ownership of the hotel industry. Don't go away.
I am Fausto Jimenez, Vice President for Standards at Grupo Posadas, and you're watching.
You are watching.
And you're watching.
You are watching.
You're watching Koni TV.
Koni TV.
And Koni TV.
Koni TV.
KoniTV.tv.
Welcome back to Hospitality Insider with Debra Robinson at ADM Associates in Atlanta, Georgia. Deborah, thank you so much for sharing that. Now we're talking about your finding suppliers. So some projects might be easy and some projects will be very difficult to find them. So if I'm a supplier that I want to work with you and I want to be serviced to ADM, what are the process do I need to go through?
Well, typically what happens is a vendor finds out about us because they've researched trade publications or at a trade show like this, and they find out what you do and they want to come in. So if they have a representative, that's the first way they may come in. Oftentimes they just pick up the phone and call or send an email. And one of the things we try to do is be responsive to those vendors because we're always looking for new vendors. So we don't want to brush somebody off. We're interested in what they do. Maybe they're a fit for us, maybe they're not. Sometimes you don't have the job right then, but later on they'll be a good fit. So we encourage vendors to contact us, and then of course we have to vet them and make sure that they have qualifications. We want to see some references. We want to talk to other people that have worked with them, especially if we're using them in a larger volume project.
Okay, so let's say that you have a lot of salespeople come in calling on you. What is ideal behavior? What do you want them to service you? How?
That's a tricky one. It's a funny thing because there are vendors who call on you and it's almost like they have a timing thing. It's like, are they at just the right time when you need them or not? And I know sometimes they feel put off because they're trying to get their foot in the door, and often it's just timing. But we generally like somebody who sends enough information so that we're familiar with them, we know what they do, they provide some references or some projects they've worked on. That gives us a good lead into it. And then a little bit of follow-up, but not so much that you start to feel like you
You're
know,
bombarded with
yes,
it.
bombarded, right? That's the right word. So,
Yes.
but enough follow through. There are people who will sometimes call like every 2 or 3 months. They'll ask, when should I call back?
Yeah.
And to just be a little respectful of that, and most are, because
Yeah.
they know that it's tricky, that we're on deadline all the time on the
Right.
purchasing side.
So that once you select a supplier,
Right.
now once you give them a purchase order, and now you have obligation to meet with the owners, and now there's that deadline that you're talking about.
Right.
So how do you follow up with the suppliers to make sure that they meet the deadline that you require?
Right. That's a regular communication that goes on from start to finish. And usually for most suppliers, they have somebody that becomes the project contact. For us, we also like to have the sales rep, but we like to know somebody at the top. I don't want to just have a sales rep to call on.
Right,
I want to be able to get to somebody if there's a problem.
Yes.
Because I think even though it's still very much a relationship business, at the end of the day, if there is a problem, you want to know who to get to that can make a
Where
choice.
the buck stops.
That's right. And you know, as a business owner myself, I
Yeah.
have some people are going to have to come to me
Yes.
to make a decision.
Right.
And when there's a serious issue, you want to know who to go to
That's
to
right.
get that. So we like having that. But if things are rocking along just fine, then we like working with the sales rep or whoever they've assigned at the factory.
Right.
And there's a regular communication that goes on because you have finishes, fabrics to approve, all these other levels that track along for the whole process. So we have a regular communication with those folks.
Yeah,
and
that's always very important.
It
that
is very important.
Connections and communication. And
that's why coming to a trade show is
Absolutely.
important, because it is still very relationship oriented.
That's right.
If you can email all day long, but being able to talk to somebody, I still pick the phone up and
Yes.
call.
That's
And
right.
say, what's happening with this,
Yeah.
or what can we do about that, or thanks for taking care of this.
That's right.
Sometimes it's thank you.
That's right. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So Debra, at the end of the day, that your job is to add value to those owners, and how you can maximize their return on investment. And so what process do you go, how much value engineering do you do when you get the specifications from the designers?
We try to take a very collegial approach to that. We have an obligation to the owner to deliver it on budget, and we also want to translate what the designer did within that budget, and that requires some finesse back and forth. So while we'll bid quantity things and look for vendors to make something, and we rely on the vendors to look at the spec and say, if we made this change,
Yeah.
it's very subtle, the design intent is the same, but it would save X number of dollars.
Yes.
And so each commodity along the way has to be evaluated in that
Yes.
way, so that when you pull all those numbers together, you've got savings to choose from. And then we try to meet together as a team with the owner, the designer. At the end of the day, we don't want the job to look like you substituted things.
course, yes.
That's not a value to the client, because they've paid a designer to come
Of
up with
course.
a wonderful vision.
Yes.
And it's not my job to chop that up. My job is to be creative, find just the right vendor that knows how to make that, so everybody goes in at the end of that project and feels proud
Yeah.
that it was a team effort.
With the best value you can offer to them.
Absolutely. And sometimes you're not going to take the low bid.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to go ahead and spend money on something that really has the major impact
Right.
in the room. And somewhere else you can make a choice to save a little money that's less noticeable, not something the guest touches or the guest may not be as aware of. That's where you have to spend time on that.
Yeah.
You have to
So,
put thought
yeah,
into
when
it.
looking back, what percent do you see that you have to value engineer because that the designer specification do not meet the budget of the owner?
There used to be a lot more of it. There's a little bit less of it it used to be quite significant in the overall process. I think designers have started to be more mindful of the budget on the front end, because that's time that they have to spend looking at new things if
Right.
it gets substituted.
Right.
So I think there's been a bigger effort on that side, which is helpful.
Wonderful,
And
yes.
so that does help the whole team
Yeah.
out. And so you do have clients sometimes that with these economic times we've just come through, there had to be a lot more creativity.
Yeah, hold that thought. That when we come back, we're going to talk about her future plan and about the sustainability of the hotel industry. Don't go away.
I'm Scott Divert, and I work for Carlson Residential Hotel Group, and you're watching.
You are watching.
You're watching.
You're watching
Thank you for watching Koni TV.
Koni TV.
Koni TV.
Koni TV.
The first ever internet TV station designed specifically for the hospitality industry. KoniTV.tv.
Welcome back to Hospitality Insider with Debra Robinson at ADM Associates in Atlanta, Georgia. Hi Debra, thank you so much for some information that you shared. And now that your really main focus is how you can give the best value to that ownership. And so all the things you do, I know some of that you have the value engineer working with a design company. And what other things can you do? When your your developer comes and says, we are over budget. You need to get done. I know you heard that many times,
We've
right?
heard that many times.
So
That's always the call. In
Yes.
fact, I'm bidding a project right now, or actually we're working on that project, where they said, did you see what they just did to the budget? They cut it in half. And that happens. It's quite significant sometimes. And so then you have to just be very creative. Sometimes it means pulling in a different tiered vendor. You have to evaluate all aspects of something. Sometimes something may look a good value, but you have to also factor in where does it ship from?
Right.
What will it cost to get it there?
Right.
What will the cartoning cost, or is it something that's closer by and less transit time? So you have to evaluate each and every one of those components to try to make those extremely tight budgets.
yeah, so you made it. At times, it always happens, doesn't it?
It does. It always does.
Yes, so now let's take a look at sustainability. Now, sustainability is a necessity as well as it has to be a habit more than just a marketing word.
Right.
So how much ADM Associates involved into that movement, and what education process do you have to go through with designers or managers?
Well, fortunately, because of all the LEEDS initiatives, most design firms now really have a good understanding of that, and so they are trying to build that in on the front side. And then as we start to work through their specifications, other products come to light, or sometimes the vendors will recommend things that would be suitable for that project, and so you try to build those things into it. So sometimes it's where the location is. I mean, realistically, if we're doing a domestic project, if we can source it with domestic sources, that makes sense.
Right.
It just from a overall
Freight.
global standpoint, fuel, all those things, thinking of it as a bigger picture of our world, you know, sometimes those are good choices to make. And sometimes it may cost a little more, and you have a client who's willing to do that because it's a good thing to do in that case.
Yeah, it could cost more at the beginning, but for long run, you know, actually it may be less costly.
Right. Exactly.
So all these projects you have done all over the world, which is one that you are so proud, and why?
Oh, products all over the world. Goodness, that's a hard one to answer because they, you know, I still think the carpets, Axminster carpets, I still think the ones made in Ireland are still quite beautiful, and so I think those are special products. But there's so many vendors making things now. We have beautiful fabrics that come from all over the world. There's beautiful lighting that comes, and oftentimes that's offshore lighting, but it's very finely skilled, and many of the case goods that come from offshore, from factories that have craftsmen that have learned to do things in a beautiful way. And so we're fortunate to work with so many beautiful products.
I mean, the world has really changed since we started the business.
Oh, completely different. Complete. But it's a small world in that way, you know, and I like that because you're on the phone talking to someone in India, and then the next day you're talking to someone in China. It's just, I love that. I love that about it.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So with the project that you have accomplished, that you do more U.S. or more overseas now?
in terms of the project
Your
location.
project,
It's been a lot of domestic work recently.
Oh, good.
So it's cyclic sometimes, you know, that we'll have projects that are overseas or here. But recently it's been a little bit more domestic, which has been kind of nice to see the work come back. For a while there, everything seemed to be
Yes.
offshore, and it's nice to see that come back.
That's right. Yeah, we saw the statistics today. My goodness.
Right.
There's a, what is it? 100-some thousand rooms that's
Yes.
going on right now.
Yes, and
Yeah.
the U.S. market needed that. I
Yes.
mean, if you've traveled much, you know there are some tired rooms out there, and some tired properties that need to be
That's fantastic.
updated. And because technology changes and style has changed quite a bit, just the overall feel of a room and what people want. They talked about that in one of the earlier sessions. The way guests use a room is quite different today than the old standard prototype room. So it's very good to see that.
That's wonderful. Now, we are in HI Connect here now. So, what is your feeling? What is your experience that being here 2 days?
Well, it's been a great experience so far, and we've attended the last 2 years as just attendees coming through and enjoying the products, meeting vendors, seeing the new things. This year we participated with several vignettes providing purchasing services, so that was also nice to have that collaboration and work with designers. I love to come and meet many of the vendors that we talk to on the phone all the time, and just on my way here a vendor came down the aisle and she's like, "Oh, it's great to meet you. We've been emailing for days about a project now," and it was great to get to meet her. But to see new product, I love seeing new product and seeing the inventive ways that the designers have worked with the factories, and that pushes them a little bit to think outside the box. They're having to not just show something at a trade show, but actually show something that was specially designed for this.
You know, it really is totally innovative way to showing the product, and it come alive, doesn't
Absolutely
it?
comes alive. It's very different than your standard trade show because a vendor is going to put what they want to put in that booth.
Right.
But here they've had to stretch a little bit and be creative, and that's good for me to see because then I see what their capability is. Sometimes we are guilty of putting a vendor in a box and we say, vendor A can do this, and that's all they know how to do. But you come here, and I've been through several vignettes where I am surprised by the vendor that made a product because I didn't think of them in that light. So that's a great new knowledge for me.
That's great. Thank you so much, Deborah. There's just one more that I would like you to share your wisdom of your success for this many, many years. From 75, that is, what is it? How many years is it?
That's almost 38, 39.
39 years.
Yes.
What is your success wisdom?
Oh, I think our success has been that we have tried to keep our company at a certain size because we try to maintain that relationship with our client with regular contact with them. We're not going to take a job and then we're gone and they never see us again.
Right.
We're going to be with them from start to finish. And I think also our ethics.
And you're hands-on.
And we're very hands-on, and we get a lot of referrals because they know, designers know and clients know that we're not going to change their overall design. We're going to work together to make it a beautiful project.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching Hospitality Insider with Debra Robinson at ADM Associates in Atlanta. If you would like to know more about ADM Associates, go to konitv.tv. Thank you for watching.
This is Ken Salyer with Tricus, and I want to thank you for watching.
You're watching.
Thanks for watching Koni TV.
Koni TV.
Watch it every day for the latest hospitality news, hospitality trends, or whatever you desire to find out in the hospitality industry.
Come join us now at konitv.tv.